Hey folks, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today in the channel, I have just a little preview for you. I don't think we'll do any gameplay, but I wanted to show you this new game from Gustavo Coelho. We've taken a look at quite a few of his games before, and this is or will be soon available on itch.io. And this is his new game called Ghost Transmission. So this game started as an expansion for his game Little Town. Little Town is kind of a paranormal investigation game, very similar to Twin Peaks in theming, but it also has expansions for kind of Cthulhu theme and also kind of an X-Files theme. And I like Little Town a lot. I think Little Town is great. But Ghost Transmission started out as an expansion for this game, but then it kind of grew off into its own thing, and he's releasing it as a standalone game. On the channel before, we've also taken a look at his Little GM emulator, which is a fantastic kind of all-in-one solution for solo role-playing in a number of different themes and settings. That's really cool. And also his analog dungeon crawl here, Caves and Catacombs, which I also like a lot. So this build here that you're seeing of Ghost Transmission was handmade. It's a custom build, and Gustavo did make it for me for the Dungeon Dive, and I think it's really, really cool. I don't know if all of this additional build stuff will be available on the itch.io on his itch.io page, but I hope it is, so that other people can make the build that he made for me. And I think this is a really good example of how you can get creative in DIYing your own zines and your own materials, and it goes a long way to really enforcing the theme of this game. And the theme of this game, it's all centered around a haunted stereo system that you might have purchased at an old thrift store or an antique store or some kind of flea market. And maybe you get home and you set up your stereo system, and maybe that stereo system came with a box of blank tapes or a box of old tapes, and you put those tapes in and you start listening to them, and there are these strange transmissions coming from the audio, and you dive in and you start listening to them, and you're kind of putting together the pieces of this paranormal puzzle. And so this is a pure journaling game. So for those of you who don't like journaling games, you know, this may not do it for you. But if you are interested in physical media, especially like cassettes and vinyl, I'm mainly a CD guy. But if you're interested in physical media and that kind of nostalgia that comes with physical media, or that superior audio that maybe comes with physical media, you might really like this game, especially if you're looking for something that is that kind of paranormal investigation, which is a subgenre. That's a theme that I really, really enjoy. It's one of my favorite themes. And so I was really happy to see this. But yeah, this is Ghost Transmission. This is the player manual, and as you can see, it's kind of laid out like a stereo setup guide. Very, very cool. And then the game comes with 3 different scenarios, and I like these scenarios. They're kind of set up like, I don't know, like technical manuals. So we have scenario 1, scenario 2, and scenario 3. Now what's really cool is in this build that Gustavo made for the Dungeon Dive, he also added this Ghost Transmissions, this tape. And these are really cool. So the scenarios also come in these little notebooks that are shaped like tapes and have the a tape image on them. I absolutely love this. I immediately fell in love with this just because I really do like physical media a lot. And the J card here has places where you can keep your notes. So you can have your character on a little J card for your cassette. I think that is super, super cool. But we have scenario 1, scenario 2, and scenario 3. And each one of these scenarios has custom prompts that are all themed around a certain kind of paranormal mystery. So super cool. I love this. And I'm really hoping that these files to make things like this are going to be available when you purchase the game. I think there's an older version of the game on itch.io right now for around $3 or $4. But I think he was saying that he's going to update it to include some of this type of material. you know, you would have to print this out and find your cassette case and all of that. But if you get creative, you can make something like this. And man, I just love it. Sometimes I'm really lucky on the Dungeon Dive when people send me stuff like this, and it makes me very happy. I like having this kind of bespoke thing. But the game is rather simple. You will create a simple character. You will need a deck of cards. And when I play horror games, I like to use this black bicycle deck here. This is called the Shadow Masters deck. I don't know if this is available anymore, but I've had this for many years. But this is kind of like my horror themed deck, and I think this is a cool deck. You know, this game goes right alongside with his Little Town, and also maybe the Unseen World, which is another game that I absolutely love. But yeah, you'll need a deck of cards. You will need 2d6. You will need a pen or a pencil, an eraser, and a notebook in order to keep track of your clues and responding to the prompts. Now, one thing about journaling games is my handwriting is terrible, and I really hate writing by hand. You know, it's a kind of it's a skill, it's an art that a lot of us don't practice anymore, and so when we do, our hands kind of hurt, our fingers hurt, or something like that. And yeah, my handwriting is just terrible. I have a really hard time reading my handwriting a lot. So I was thinking about investing in one of those small little writing word processing laptops that have like the paper white screen. If any writers out there, if you guys use anything like that, let me know if you like them or not. They might be handy. I don't know how expensive they are. You know, if they're a couple $100 bucks, it might be worth investing in one just so I can do my journaling on a little computer. And, you know, I don't want to set up my whole laptop. It's easy to get distracted on a laptop. So having a kind of bespoke thing, a thing that's only for writing, might make journaling games more fun, and it might make journaling games more fun for other people. But this says that Ghost Transmission is a solo journaling RPG in which you play as an unsuspecting person dealing with strange signals captured by an old stereo. Your goal as the character is to uncover the truth behind these recordings and the danger they might pose. And so this goes into a little bit of the background, how it was originally conceived as a scenario for Little Town. But we have very basic rules, so you have a few things you need to keep track of, such as instability and a time limit. Time limit can tick up, but as you learn clues, it can tick back down. If it ever reaches a certain threshold, then that triggers the end of the game. Instability is kind of your character's sanity as they are learning about the horrors, learning about the weird paranormal mysteries. Your character will become more unstable, and if that ever reaches a certain point, then that also triggers the end of the game. We also go into the deck here. So we have single events, and then we have anomalies, dangers, and clues. And those are all separated out by the different suits. And so like a typical kind of prompt-driven game, you will shuffle your deck of cards, you will draw a card, and then you will look up the corresponding card, you will index it in the scenario that you are playing, and then you will respond to that clue or to that prompt. And often the different prompts will have a little bit of a narrative. So let's say we were playing scenario 1 and we drew that 8 of spades. So we could flip to our 8 of spades here. And this says that you get an electric shock when trying to stop one of the recordings from playing what was in the recording. So then you would respond to that prompt. Sometimes the prompts will have more of a mechanical benefit or detriment, and you'll keep track of those two kind of stats as you are playing. And by the end of a game, you will have a kind of a whole mystery that corresponds, that is themed around whichever scenario you are playing. And then once you reach a certain point in the scenario, you will total up the number of clues that you have discovered, and then you will roll 2d6 and add the number of clues to that total, and then you will look at this corresponding table here to determine the outcome of that mystery. So it's rather simple, but this is a game that I think is made more interesting just because of its theming, you know, just all centered around this haunted stereo and haunted physical media. That's something that I know a lot of people like. So when we get to the character creation, you will also write up a little bit in your journal about your character, about, you know, how the kind of like their history with music. And so I think this is a really cool game also for music fans. You know, you find this stereo, was made in the 1980s. How did you end up with it? You can roll a d6. Maybe you found it at an auction or an antique shop. You stumbled upon it abandoned. You know, I've seen stereos thrown out on the side of the road, and I know some people pick those up and they try to fix them. And so that's all often a really kind of a great and lucky way to come across a interesting piece of equipment. And then you get the stereo home, and you know, you have some old vinyl records or cassette tapes, or in my case CDs, and you know, why had you kept all of these albums? Why haven't you replaced those albums just with streaming? Where did you set up your stereo, and what made you choose that spot? Which records did you play and why? And I always think about that whenever I get new headphones or something. There are certain albums that I like to test out headphones with, or test out new speakers or receivers with, because I just think they sound really good. And a few examples of that are The Cure's Disintegration. I think this album is just absolutely gorgeous. I love this album so much. And this CD version here, this deluxe version, has all kinds of stuff. It has a really, really great expanded version of the Entreat, the live concert of Disintegration. So one of my favorite albums, and I think it just sounds fantastic. This is one of my tester albums. I also, my favorite, probably my favorite sounding album of all time is Tears for Fears, The Seeds of Love. And this deluxe version is one of my favorite things that I own. It has, I think, 5 CDs, and it also has a 5.1 mix by Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree. But Tears for Fears is an album that I always use to check out new headphones. Same as Roxy Music's Avalon, perhaps the most beautiful pop album ever recorded. Just a late night makeout masterpiece, man. This album, throw this album on at like 2 a.m. in a dark room and you are set. This album is so good. It's so beautiful. More Than This, of course, one of their big hits from this album. But yeah, Roxy Music's Avalon is just, and look at that cover, man. That's one of my favorite album covers of all time. And something newer. Speaking of Steven Wilson, this is a great sounding album, The Overview. So this is his latest album, came out in 2025, but this album sounds fantastic as well. And so this is something new that I often use to check out new headphones. But yeah, so you can go through those prompts to kind of flesh out your character's backstory, your character's, you know, life with music, and really think about music while you're playing this game. Maybe put on some of your favorite albums and really get lost in that world and kind of imagine that you found this old box of cassettes and they were all of these mixtapes made by somebody, maybe from the radio. Recently I did buy this little transistor radio because I have been listening to the radio a lot more, and this is an ICF P26, and I believe this was actually the last transistor radio that Sony made, but you can still get these on eBay for like 20 bucks. But in the mornings I listen to like NPR jazz on this thing, and it's been a lot of fun getting back into just listening to the radio. I wish that the airwaves, I wish that all of that corporate consolidation that happened in the 90s would be reversed, and that the airwaves could be returned back to smaller, privately owned radio stations and to the public where they should be. The public should own radio stations. And we know we have some pretty good radio stations up here in Seattle, like KEXP, which plays some fantastic music. I really like their stuff a lot. But yeah, so each of the scenarios has a different type of theming, and I can't remember where I saw that. Maybe it was on the website. Maybe it was on the itch.io page, where he goes into the different types of themes. But each one of these will have all of your prompts, and then also has some of these really cool patent drawings of like cassettes and different mechanisms, different physical mechanisms for playing physical media. But yeah, it's super cool. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting, and I love that theme. I love that theme kind of focused around physical media. I think it's really, really cool. And I know people are getting more and more into physical media because more and more younger people who kind of grew up without physical media are rediscovering the joys and benefits of actually owning the things that you buy. And so, you know, people can't snatch those away from you. But the game flow is rather simple. After you've created your character and come up with your backstory, you draw a card, you look at the prompt, you respond to that prompt, you update your instability or your accumulated stress or your time limit. And then if those reach certain thresholds, those might trigger certain things. And then you try to keep your sanity long enough to come up with a solution to that mystery. But scenario 1 here, the setup is only a whisper could be heard in the first recording, almost like background noise. As the minutes went by, the voice grew louder, as if it were gaining confidence. Did it sound familiar? What was it saying? And so that gives you just a little bit of a clue about what's going on, and then you can just play through that. But I love, just absolutely love that he made these tiny little scenario books in the size of a cassette. And man, that just looks so cool. This is awesome. And they all fit in this cassette case there. That is super cool. And a couple of other things, and I'm hoping that these are also available for people to make their own on the itch.io when you buy it, but this kind of like bookmark here that you could use to keep your spot in the prompt book. He also sent me this little notebook here that is in a cassette form. That is really cool. I love that. And also, I think these are really cool. And I haven't seen these yet on itch.io, but I think he should put them on there. These are playlists that he created to listen to while you are playing each scenario. And these have a little QR code that takes you to the Spotify playlist. I don't use Spotify, but I think most of these, I stream through Apple Music, and I mainly only stream albums. I download full albums. I'm not a huge playlist guy, but turns out Gustavo and I have a lot in common in the music we listen to. I was looking at these playlists and I was like, okay, these look like mixtapes I would have made my girlfriends back in high school. We have Nick Cave, Echo and the Bunnymen, PJ Harvey, This Mortal Coil. God, I love This Mortal Coil. I think they have 3 albums. One of their albums, Filigree and Shadow, that's one of my favorite albums of all time. Just, oh my God, that album is so beautiful. Dead Can Dance, another favorite. Joy Division, awesome. Killing Joke, Fields of Nephilim, The Swans. The Swans just recently put out a new album this year, and once again, it's absolutely epic and just intimidating. The Swans are maybe one of the most intimidating bands I've ever heard. If you've never listened to The Swans, listen to a few of their most recent albums. I mean, they're like 2 hours long. It's like a barrage of sound, and just it's really, they are a very much of an in-your-face band. Diamond de Galas, Ben Frost, Wolves in the Throne Room, Neurosis, Tricky, Boren, and their Club de Gore, the Club of Gore. Very much of a kind of a Twin Peaks style band. I shouldn't have been surprised that Gustavo likes them, especially considering Littletown being Twin Peaks. You know, if you took Julie Cruz and like Dale Cooper and just all of the other characters in Twin Peaks and put them in a band, they would sound like Boren there. And then let's see, we have scenario 2. We have the Flaming Lips. At one time, they were my favorite band. I think I've seen them live like 20 times. Feeling Yourself Disintegrate, that's a great song. Cockatoo Twins, of course. Beach House is great. Low, Death Cab for Cutie, Echo and the Bunnymen again. God, I love Echo and the Bunnymen so much. Bjork, Radiohead. I have an interesting story about Radiohead. I actually had dinner with Radiohead during their Benz tour, and a friend of mine became really good friends with Tom York. But yeah, my buddy worked at a record store, and he got us like tickets to go see them on the Benz tour. It was one of their first big, or not even big, they played at Slim's in San Francisco, which is a really small club. And we had dinner with the band before the show over at, what was that called? It was a place in San Francisco right across the street from Slim's. I can't remember the name of the little restaurant now, but it was it was really fun. We got to hang out with them, and they were all really nice guys. Stereolab, the Caretaker. I recently mentioned them in my music for games video. They're pretty cool. Actually, they're very cool. Leland Kirby, he is also the Caretaker, and Steve Reich. Who else here? William Basinski, the Disintegration Loops. Oh man, what a great piece of kind of experimental ambient music. David Bowie, M83. I used to like them a lot. They kind of fell off a little bit, but their first couple of albums were pretty great. Echo and the Bunnymen again. I think Gustavo must be a huge Echo and the Bunnymen fan. I am as well. Chelsea Wolfe, she is fantastic. Uncle Tom York, Fields of Nephilim again, Joy Division, Coil, Tool. I'm a huge Tool fan. I know Tool fans can kind of be insufferable, but I'm not. I just really like their music a lot. Let's see, Ben Frost again, John Carpenter, Trent Reznor, Gazelle Twin. So yeah, just really, really great mixes. So I'm hoping that he puts these out as well so people can listen to the music that maybe he was thinking of as he was coming up with these scenarios. I love that. That is super, super cool. And then he also sent me some little stickers, 95 mix, some kind of radio stickers, and then a little solo sticker and his little solo system logo there. And then some labels that he made for Ghost Transmission and the Dungeon Dive. I just think this is really cool. It's very thoughtful, so thank you, Gustavo. And I really like Gustavo's games. They're relatively simple, but they always tend to focus on the things that kind of bring out the fun. I know some people really aren't into journaling games, but if you're just into music and physical media, this might be something you want to get into. And then also as a little bonus, he sent me in a cassette case as well. And this is a 3D printed cassette case. I've never seen one of those before. But he sent me a pocket version of Caves and Catacombs. And so again, I'm not sure if this is out yet on his itch.io page, but we have a lot of the rules. I haven't looked too closely into this to see if these are just kind of stripped down rules. I imagine they are. Maybe this is the full version. But like his Ghost Transmission cassette, here we have all of the kinds of tables and things that you would need to play Caves and Catacombs. You have quest creation, traps and enemies, dungeon generation, treasure and optional rules, character creation, spells, and equipment. And so these are all of the things that you would need to have a little kind of analog dungeon crawl in your pocket. But I would have a hard time reading this, I think. The text is very, very, very tiny. But I just thought this was kind of cool, kind of a neat little novelty. And I think that's what Ghost Transmission is, especially with all of this stuff. It's a really cool novelty. And sometimes a novelty, sometimes something novel can go a long way in making something feel special. And I'm very lucky to be in this position where somebody would make something like this for me and send it to me. And I just wanted to share that with you. And if you're interested in the game, go on to itch.io. I will post a link below. You can buy the game. And I don't see a lot of this extra stuff on the itch.io page right now. So I would like to encourage Gustavo to put up the files for these other things that people can print out and make their own versions. And if you do, hey, come on over to the Dungeon Dive forum, Dungeon Dive Quest, and share these things with the community there. It's a growing community. We're doing really well. And I think we need to start some kind of a thread there about DIY, about DIYing projects, so people can share their builds of these cool kind of print on demand and DIY games. So, all right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this look at Ghost Transmission. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.